three-tier system, right, going on over here. So there's the Business Focus Group, which is a subsidiary of Gather in the Circle. And Gather in the Circle is to reimagine how St. Albans Circle could be improved, how it could be more attractive to people to stop and shop and actually linger, and it could be a little bit more of a community feel to the St. Albans Circle. And leading all that charge is Kirsten Mailer, who's on the call right now. And Kirsten is with Connect the Dots. So it goes Business Focus Group to Gather in the Circle to Connect the Dots. And Connect the Dots is Kirsten's company or organization, association. And so, Kirsten, do you want to explain a little bit about what it is that you do and how this is all going to work?
And
Sure,
if I can, I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment, Kirsten. Just so everybody on the call is aware, we are recording this so that we have the information for future. It is being recorded as well as going out to YouTube at the same time. So I just wanted everybody to know that, because I don't like any surprises in covering those kind of things. But Kirsten, if you would.
Thanks, Steve. Yep, I'm Kirsten, and I used to work at Delaware County in the planning department. I have since moved to Connect the Dots, and I've been here for about 1.5 years. We do stakeholder engagement. That is all we do every day. So we will partner with engineers and planners, landscape architects, community associations, municipalities, and we will focus on the community engagement piece, whatever that means for the project. So for Newtown, it means helping to further a lot of the needs and ideas for the Gather in the Circle committee, and just making sure everything is staying on track and moving forward, and offering wherever we can our insights on high level and high quality participatory engagement. So I'll go into what that means a little bit more, but Paul, I'll hand it back to you if you wanted to do any more introductions. Nope, you're on mute.
Paul, you're muted.
So we have different committees here. So when we go around the room, it would be nice to hear not only your name, but who you're connected with. Which committee are you sitting on? How'd you hear about this? And a little bit, if you have a business, we'd like to hear what your business is and what it does. So I want to start with the township manager who's on the call and actually orchestrated all this, and that's Steve Neese. So Steve, why don't we start with you?
Hi, I'm Steve Neese. I'm the township manager. I guess that is my business. And so I'm very excited about this group and this opportunity for us to learn more about community engagement, just because how important that is for what I believe as part of local government, but it's also important for all the different pieces, for you as businesses, and what we're looking at for Gather in the Circle. It's the whole purpose of Gather in the Circle is to get the community engaged at the location of the circle.
Great.
And
So now I'd like to recognize a couple of the people who are on the committee called Gather in the Circle, and one of them is John Custer.
Yep, that's me. And no, I did not get in a fight. I played a little bit too much tournament tennis as a kid out in the sun, and get a lot of skin cancers every once in a while. So that's my excuse anyway. I am a business, tax, real estate planning attorney. I'm in the circle itself, and formerly with the EAC, and certainly looking forward to getting things done.
Great. And I see my co-chair has just joined. Her name is Pam Purser. So Pam, why don't you give us a little rundown of who you are and what your part of Gather in the Circle is?
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm joining late. I'm Pam Purser, co-chair of Gather in the Circle, friend of Linda McIsaac, who was the founder of Gather in the Circle. And so I am heading up the Farmers Market Committee. That has been very busy lately. It's going great. We've got a lot of community enthusiasm about it, and we're really excited to get it going in June.
So Pam is also a graphic artist. She's really talented, and she's working with the Business Association. And Steve, you're we're about to embark on a whole new banner campaign for Shop the Square. Those are Pam's words. She came up with it, and it's really, really exciting. And I want the board of the Business Association to really push forward and then bring it to the Board of Supervisors and then bring it out to into the community. So I want to recognize the next person who also has a shop front and a storefront on the circle, and that's Sheila Turner. So Sheila, from the top.
Hi everyone, I'm Sheila Turner. I own From the Top Studio of Dance. It's located right in St. Albans Circle. We've been there for 7 years in that location. And I am also the lead content coordinator and writer for the Newtown Square Friends and Neighbors magazine. So I wanted to join these committees, one, to figure out what's going on, and two, to also help out any way I can, because the Circle is a really special place and the businesses there are all local. That we just have some really great things to do. And I think it's going to be great. Everybody's looking forward to this farmers market. I've been spreading the word like crazy. So
That's great.
We're off to a good start.
Thank you, Sheila. Okay, to Anne-Marie Hare, please, Bunny Hare.
Sorry about that. I have bad dogs, so I keep muting out. I'm Anne Marie. I have bunny hairs on the circle. Same thing Sheila said, you know, it's this little group of us back there just looking forward to bringing some new people in, which we hope the farmers market will do. Like last time, we talked about the traffic concerns and the crossing, and just have people wanting to come up and put your name on the list when they do their errands and shop the circle or shop the square. Sorry.
Okay, great.
We got to do the whole square, not.
That's right. Thank you very much to Janet Gravanas, please.
Oh, yes, I'm Janet Gravanas, a 38-year resident of Newtown Square. I'm on the Environmental Advisory Council and working on a pop-up garden that's going to be for native plants, pollinators, and it's going to originate at the administration building, but then move to Gather on the Circle, where we'll have another opportunity for our residents to see how we can plant native plants to support our pollinators.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Janet. To Joe, please. Joe Brennan.
Hi, everybody. Joe Brennan. I'm the treasurer of the Newtown Square Fire Company. Again, we just wanted to have somebody present here to see how these circles going to be evolving. I've lived in the St. Albans neighborhood since 1968. And I've seen quite a few changes throughout that time. I'm really interested to see how we proceed forward.
Great. Thank you. And to John D, please. I don't know who that is. Is there a John D in the listening?
I think maybe John D'Alessandro.
It would need to, please, John, if you would.
Oh, so John, you're with Luigi and Giovanni.
John, you would need to unmute.
We're very happy that you're on the call. You know, while you're figuring that out, I'm going to go to somebody else. To Caitlin Foy, please.
I'm watching everybody.
Hey, okay. Hey, John, you're on. Okay, great. Tell us a little bit about Luigi and Giovanni for the people.
Well, Luigi and Giovanni started out as Colonial Village in 1976. We've been here in a circle, so we're talking 45 years. I don't like to think of myself as that old, but unfortunately I am. My partner Luigi's behind me, and we're interested to see what's going on. The circle's our home. This is where we live. So, we're interested in see what's going to take shape. If we always want customers, we always want people, and I'm interested. Right now, it's a little bit of a mess in Newtown Square, but once they get done those roads on Westchester Pike, it might help us all out.
Right. We're very appreciative that you joined, and you absolutely are a pivotal piece of St. Albans Circle. I mean, you're like 1/4 of it, or 1/8 or something like that. Caitlin Foy, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin. I'm new to Parks and Rec Board, and so I was invited to join, and I think there's a lot of great potential for this space. So thanks for letting me be a part of the meeting.
Thank you very much. And to Ken Taylor.
Hey there, everybody. It's just Ken Taylor from the Running Place. I'm actually still working, so we're just closing up for the night. So we're here in St. Albans. The Running Place hits literally 20 years on Wednesday the 17th. and Newtown Square. So we're definitely a player here and love being in our neighborhood, and would love to see that turn into a functional, usable space for everybody.
So these are my tennis shoes. All my shoes come from the running place. Shop.
We appreciate that pitch.
Okay, now to Kirsten, to you.
All right. Thanks so much. It's so wonderful to meet everyone here tonight. As I mentioned, and some of you weren't on yet, I'm Kirsten from Connect the Dots, a civic engagement group. And so I'm here tonight just to share some of our practices with you all. And I want it to be conversational. I want this to be useful for you. I think civic engagement and public engagement, customer engagement, it takes many forms. And so the way that we do our work just tries to make sure that we are thinking of all different kinds of perspectives and people and engaging people in a conversation in order to produce something that is really by and for the people who are going to be using it in the future. So that can really apply to anything. But what I'm going to give you is just kind of our general tools and best practices. Feel free to jump in at any time and ask questions. Also, I know that there are a lot of business owners on this meeting, and this may not have been the conversation that you were thinking you were going to get when you joined today. I hope this will still be helpful for you. But I won't feel bad if you say, I have other things to do at the moment. Maybe I'll get this from a recording later. So this is your time. I'm here to just kind of spread this information. So besides working directly on projects, we work for municipalities, for engineering companies, for cities doing road network redesigns, bus network redesigns, park visioning. We do a little bit of everything. But in everything that we do, we're making sure that we are working with the people who are going to be using the project and trying to harvest insights and voices and really understand what people kind of want from the program. So I'm going to share my screen with you all.
Most people can. Did they have a chance to look at any money? I guess.
And John, do you mind if I mute you for this?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. All right, let me share my screen. All right, can everyone see this? The working with community?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I will move this one over here a bit. I'm working on two screens here. Okay. So one of the big parts of our work is that we are trying to kind of spread the word about what community engagement can do for a project and the benefits of engaging people for engagement's sake. There's a lot you can learn from people. We like this general idea of kind of groupthink and knowledge of the crowd. And we also believe that the people who live and work in and use these spaces every day are the real experts. So even though we're coming in as experts in a certain process, we're really trying to make sure that we are engaging with the people who really understand what it's like living and working in this space. So I'll kind of take you through a general of what we do. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about our methods. Then I'm going to talk about some guiding principles and parameter setting. This is something that we have been working with a little bit with the Gather in the Circle group, but we thought that this would be also a really good opportunity to share some more of that parameter setting language, just so we're making sure that people are on the same page and understanding what's coming up for the circle. I'm going to ask you all, and we're going to talk a little bit about the role of education and engagement, because it means different things to different people. I'll share some points of creativity and really meeting people where they are. And then I'll talk about the digital divide and remote engagement and how that's all been working this year. So again, just please feel free to jump in any time. I'm still listening and watching the screen on the side. So if you do have a question or a thought, just pop off mute and say, feel free to interrupt me. So something that we really enjoy doing, especially on Zoom, is kind of getting this chat going. It's nice to be having a side conversation. That's one of the big benefits of Zoom, is that people have a lot of different ways they can interact. So if everyone wouldn't mind pulling up the chat on Zoom and either write in your familiarity with engagement, whatever that means, what kind of public meetings you've attended in the past, or what is something good that you've experienced at a public meeting or a bad thing you've experienced at a public meeting. Just kind of curious where people are coming from you know, what they've seen and interacted with. You don't have to answer all of these, just pick one that you are feeling comfortable about. I'll give you just a minute. And I'm going to open up the chat as well so I can see what people are up to. Oh,
My chat
actually,
says it's disabled.
mine does too. So maybe no chats today. Would anyone like to jump in and speak to one of these points? Maybe Paul, I'll put you on the spot for a minute. Nope, you're coming in on mute, Paul.
I'll come on the spot. I'm Ken Taylor.
Great. Hi, Ken. Thanks.
No worries. I actually live in Lower Merion, and we're dealing with a lot of this stuff with the students going back to school, like with every other school district. And a lot of these events, like they have the Zoom meetings for this and that. Some of the positives are, you know, you get a clear perspective on where things are coming from, but from other perspectives, like people brought up things that I wouldn't have thought about, which makes you think about other people, not about yourself.
Mm.
And but the negative is sometimes it goes off the rails. Like some of these things go off the rails, and it's hard to get them back.
Yep, those are really excellent points. And I think the two things that are always at odds with public meetings is that we really hope they can be productive, engaging, inspiring, communal, but then you get the bad. And so hopefully some of the stuff that I'll give you will help you get rid of a lot of those bad qualities of meetings and just support the good ones, because ultimately, you know, everyone wants to be in a good communal place with these kinds of meetings. Thanks, Ken. It looks like the chat is enabled now. So if anyone else wants to type some things in there, feel free to chat with each other on these. So just very quickly, connect the dots. We are a stakeholder engagement firm, like I said. We try to bring together a lot of different types of partners. And really our mission is just to make places better. So, you know, that could mean a city, a town, a specific neighborhood, a pocket park, a business corridor. It could really be anything. We're just trying to make the space better for the people who use it. And part of our vision is to have people really co-designing their future. So that means not just an expert coming in and saying, here's what you're going to get, but really pulling that wisdom of the crowd out and helping to deliver something by and for the people who are going to use it. So a couple of our main principles that we try to include in all of our work are up here, just a couple of them. Equity is a big word this year, which is fantastic. It's something that we've been talking about for a really long time, but generally means to us that we want to be very inclusive of the voices that we are bringing to the table for these conversations. Transparency is another important one to us. It can be really hard as a government entity or even a business sometimes to talk about what it is that you're doing and why it's important to you. But we find that there are ways to kind of use that language and plan accordingly so that people can understand what you're doing and feel a little bit more connected to you through transparency. Quickly, this is a little bit more academic, but something that we follow loosely in our work. This is called the IAP2 spectrum of public participation. I think it stands for the Institute of something public participation. Don't quiz me. But this is sort of an evolution of the way that we like to think about participation and engagement. So the very first thing that most people do pretty well is inform. It's easy to send information out one way. So that could be a flyer, a postcard, an announcement in the newspaper. That's getting your information out and kind of leaving it at that. So an important step. But the second one is consultation. So requesting information back. It could be a survey. It could be send us a postcard, you know, fill out a letter about your experience working with this business, something like that, a review, and then kind of taking that and assessing internally. Involving is where Connect the Dots usually comes into this process. So that is the first kind of two-way process. We are having people bring their concerns to us. We are voicing their concerns back to them and seeing if some way we can kind of go back and forth with that conversation. really getting people involved in this process and building it together. Collaboration is kind of getting everyone closer to that same level of work. And I think something that we're really achieving along with the next step with Gather in the Circle is that a lot of people who are working together have the same level of involvement. It's a volunteer organization. And we're making sure that everyone kind of has a platform and a voice for their ideas, and we're helping each other move forward together. So empowerment is kind of this final step that we're always hoping for. You know, connect the dots can't be everywhere. We're not going to stay on all of our project sites. We want to be able to empower and then leave and have this community just be self-sustaining and iterative. So that's something else that we're working towards for Gather in the Circle. We're including sessions like this. We're trying to give you all of the tools you need to be really successful at projects like this in the future without any help from us. So something that is very important to think about when you're starting engagement. The first one is, are you consulting on topics that can be influenced? So Paul and I have had a couple conversations on this. Do we want to use the word vision? Do we want to ask questions like, what do you want to see here? That, you know, is a lot of people's first instinct on how to engage the community, but we actually kind of need to pull back a little bit from that, because what happens is people get really involved and excited. And if some people, if their expectations are not, kind of not reined in a bit, and if they're kind of, there's a big possibility that they're going to misunderstand kind of how this process is going and what they're going to actually get out of it. So in 2 years, if they don't end up seeing their voices and opinions reflected in something that comes out in the real world, they may be a little bit disillusioned in future processes. So we want to make sure that we're asking questions on things that actually can be, there can be some kind of an impact and an outcome from them, unless we're just being really clear about our parameters that we're setting. So visioning can be fun. We just have to really make sure that people are understanding what that means and what can actually come out of that. Related to the IAP2 spectrum, we want to make sure that we know the answer to this, at least at first. Are we doing just outreach, or are we doing engagement, or are we doing both? And just making sure we're really clear about that. Because every part is useful. You just want to make sure that you are kind of setting the right tone. Then the last one is, are the timelines and project area realistic? So timelines are tough. We're going to learn that a lot in Gather in the Circle. We have a lot to do this year. I think that they are all achievable. And part of that is that the project area is very realistic. It's a contained space. You know, we have a specific number of stakeholders that we can identify. We know all the business owners in the direct area that are going to be impacted. And a lot of you are here today, which is fantastic. And we want to make sure that this is kind of an open process so we can hear back from you if there are any trouble. So, general approach. So I mentioned this earlier, something that we try to do in all of our projects, and Gather in the Circle is an even better example than most, is that we're co-creating the process to ensure that it's the best fit for the stakeholders. So I use a lot of jargon. I don't mean to. Stop me if there's anything that I'm saying that doesn't sit well with you or not, you know, a common part of your language. But stakeholders essentially are just anyone who is going to be affected by this project or may have some kind of a stake in it in the future. And so we use that term pretty loosely. It could mean neighbors because they have a stake in their housing prices changing based on what happens in the area. It could be drivers who are coming through the circle who may have different perceptions of how they should be allowed to use that space. It could be businesses. It could be the township. It could also be different groups of people that are represented in the township. So you know, it could be different age groups or different racial groups, different demographics. It could be a local school. So there are always people to think about here. And this is something that we usually start our projects with, just to make sure we are bringing the right people in early and not missing anyone who might want to co-create with us. So this little part of our process at the beginning, this build-in and consultation, is something that really sets us apart. A lot of processes start right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but right where those circles begin together, this core project lifespan. But we want to make sure that we are coaching people to really have that build-in period, so we're building something together. And then just as essential actually is this little tail end, the reporting and monitoring. That's something that Gather in the Circle is going to be talking about next. For every one of the events that we're trying to put on, we want to make sure that we are gathering the right information at these events. So asking people what they think of them, taking different metrics measurements, like how many people are actually showing up, what the age groups are, asking questions like, what else do you want to see here in the future? Just anything that can help us make this better, easier, more efficient, more long lasting, could be anything. So we're going to start developing those metrics together really soon. Setting expectations. That's kind of still the phase that we're in right now. So we want to make sure that we're messaging really, really carefully and then asking the right questions too. This relates back to kind of that visioning process. We don't want these questions to be too big, but we don't want them to be too small either. Okay, here's my first wall of text. So I'll give you just a minute. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions so far? All right, lots of note taking. I like it. So I put this slide together recently just for this group. These are just a couple ways that will always help you to be prepared for whatever your project is. The first one is just to know your project. You're going to have a lot of conversations about your project. You want to make sure that the scope in your mind is sort of figured out. Maybe you've brought a couple people on to tell you like if it's too big or too small, give you a couple creative ideas. So we just want to know at this point what can and can't be achieved, what's on the table, what's not on the table. So that if someone comes and says, hey, I want to see a water park in St. Albans Circle, we can say to them, well, that's a very creative idea. I don't think it's exactly within the scope of what we're going to be doing here, but let's talk about what else might be in the scope. Here are the direct parameters of the project. Given that and the timeline and the budget constraints, what else would you like to see here? So what is the aim and what is not the aim of the project? The second important one is really to learn your audience. So ask questions, get to know them, treat them as experts. Paul is leading this focus group for the first couple months of the session. This is incredibly valuable time for you to voice your opinions. He is treating you all as experts, the experts that you are. You know this area, you know your business, you know Newtown from your own perspective. Your residents and business owners. So you have a really specific viewpoint of what you know. And that's all information that will help us build a better place for you and the other people who are using this space. John, did you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess it's a business question.
I'll do my best.
How many people in this committee could lose money from the circle?
That's a good question. Do you?
I mean, I have 45 years invested here.
Yeah.
In the building. And if they start doing projects in this that might affect me, I lose.
In a negative way.
In a negative way. I mean, I'm all for it, but I mean, I just don't know, like you mentioned, just kidding around a water park. That's not kidding. They're talking about possibly because of the traffic, putting overrides and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, who knows? And listen, I guess it's just in a futuristic aspect. I have to know what's going on because, at my age,
You have too much money to invest.
yeah, I have a lot of money invested in here, and I'm just looking at it that way. I want to bring business in. I want to make the circle attractive. It was told to me that there might be some walking traffic. Listen, people drive today and they drive and have to park to walk. I live in Westchester. I go in Westchester all the time. I go to media. I go where people walk. There's restaurants and everything, but you need to park somewhere. you know, so I'm just looking at the circle in general. Are they gonna make a parking lot out of this circle?
So may I say something?
I know it sounds, you know, but I mean, as a businessman, I'm getting a, you know, I don't know what the real, you know, what you presented was great, you know, but I don't know where it meshes.
What can
You
it
know what I mean?
affect us negatively?
You know, like my biggest question and my partner before this meeting was, okay, is she going to tell us where this was before in an area like this? In other words, have you ever went to circles like this and say, hey, I tried this in Jersey and it worked great, and this is what I did. And I'll say, hey, you know, it's worth a try. Or are we a sample item here? Are we just throwing our ideas together? If everybody throws their ideas together and says, hey, that sounds great. Well, okay, well, now I'm going to ask you, well, how much do you have to lose if it sounds so great? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a mortgage on $1 million building? Do you have like equipment in that? Or do you go to work every day at 4 o'clock in the circle? Or, you know, you understand what I'm saying?
I definitely do. Yeah. Yep.
You know,
Here, Paul, do you mind if I take a stab at the question first?
Sure.
go ahead.
John, yeah, feel free to jump in anytime, John. I definitely hear you. I think those are all really valid points. And one of the biggest reasons that we are really glad that you're here and we wanted to involve you in this conversation, because we don't know all of these things. I mean, Connect the Dots, we do community engagement. We're here to make sure that voices are being heard and this expertise is being respected and used. We're also bringing in other experts in other fields. So we're actually working with Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, which is the regional planning group. They're based in Philly, but they are excellent traffic engineers. So they're the ones who have done several projects like this. And, you know, every single place is unique. That's something that I love so much about this job and about planning and engagement in general. So there isn't going to be a place that has the exact history, the exact spatial layout, the exact businesses, needs as
well,
your
I
space.
understand that. What I'm getting at is, okay, how much traffic goes through the circle? Is that same amount of traffic going to go through the circle? Or is it going to, we can't do that because it's going to be more of a walk-in? You know, I mean, I'm just looking at, you know, like I'm saying, okay, the more business you bring in, the more people there are, but you have to be able to, number one, handle the people. I mean, listen, if I get too busy, I lose. Does that sound crazy? Because people say, oh man, I'm out of here. You know, just like when you're on the street, I got to get off of this Westchester Pike and get a shortcut because it's too much. I mean, people they have all different, you know, attitudes. Some people like to go to a park and sit on a bench. Well, if there's 30 people waiting to sit on that bench, they ain't going to go to that park anymore. So, I mean, it sounds, this Newtown Square is a quaint little place. Now it's a mini King of Prussia. You know, we got high rises, we got apartments all over, we got this. That's great, a lot of people. I just look at, you know, everybody is protecting their interest. This is my home, I'm protecting my home. You know, Sheila's protecting her home and everyone else, Bunny is protecting hers. But we need the people naturally to shop and whatever. And listen, I'm all for business and progress because that's what makes things go. But at the same time, sometimes you can get swallowed up from it. And that's what I fear, you know, getting swallowed up.
Yeah, I definitely hear you, John. And that's the reason that we want to make sure that this process is very, very slow. So I hopefully will, you know, give you a bit of relief to know that none of the stuff that we're going to even talk about this year is going to go in tomorrow. We're not going to change any traffic patterns. We're not going to put in any new businesses. You know, we're not going to make any implementations that we haven't already tested a bit and gotten a lot of different reactions on. So that's one of the reasons that we're bringing in DVRPC, the planning group, who knows about traffic, so that they can demonstrate a couple projects, and then you can actually come out and interact with it and see what you think and kind of give us tips and pointers.
Have you brought them into Newtown Square before?
They know the area pretty well, I believe. Yeah.
Are they directing the traffic that's here now?
Well, DVR, if I can.
I'm just trying to, you know. you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
if I can for a moment, DVRPC has been actively involved in several different projects, not directly in what what's going on right now with some of the challenges, but they're working with SEPTA on some projects to try to help alleviate some of the traffic problems we're having in Newtown. And there's some things they're working on with that. So they're familiar with our area. They're familiar with the fact that we're a crossroads between 3 and 252, which provides a ton of traffic that goes through our community. And much of the traffic that goes through our community does not stop. And so, you know, they're looking at that and how to help us with that side of it. But they also do a lot with how to help in areas just like the Circle to help provide for a spot where people want to stop and enjoy the surroundings. And, you know, I would just say one of the things from the township's perspective, and I think Kirsten said it well, is that we're not rushing through and just throwing something in and saying, this is how we're going to do it. We're testing some things. It's an opportunity for people to give feedback back and say, yes, this works, or no, it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then we'll look at doing something else. So the idea is not to have somebody's business go away. The idea is to have a vibrant place where people want to be. Part of my concern, and one of the reasons why, you know, when Linda had originally talked about this whole idea of the Circle, was that as these other areas in town expand and we start getting some of these other businesses in, I'm concerned that our little shops survive and thrive during that. And I think that the things that we can do to connect and make the Circle be a place that people want to gather helps to make that happen.
John, I'm Tina Roberts-Lightcap. I'm one of the township supervisors. And just to echo what Stephen and Kirsten had said, we as a board, that's why I'm part of this committee as well, is to take this slow, and we want to help you all grow as businesses, as local businesses. So we're not looking to make major changes. We're just trying to improve St. Albans Circle because it is a nice charm. It's got charm. And the fact that your businesses help to grow this community, that's the point of this. So please don't think that we're trying to enhance it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen and Steve. Paul, did you want to add anything else there? Or John, did you want to clarify anything?
It's kind of already been said, but what I was going to say is this is so different of an approach to what business owners usually do. So for business owners, typically there's a problem and then they identify the best solution possible and they go for the solution. End of story. And then they look for the next problem, or when one pops up, they solve it. And what you're bringing forward and suggesting with Connect the Dots is a much more kind of fascinating approach. It's a different approach to what people who are in business usually use, at least in my opinion. And so it's taken me a little moment to get used to it as well. But I view it a little bit like watching lava, or it's molten and it's an idea that's falling down, and it might go a little bit this way, it might go a little bit that way, but you can't hasten it. And you can't say, I know that the lava is going to end up at this corner of the Pacific or whatever it is. It's going to find its way and it'll go where it has the most support and the most a welcoming circumstance. And so I understand. I just underline with it what Steve and Tina were saying. I agree with, and this is different. So we just sort of have to let this process evolve.
Can I just say something really quick? And
Yeah, of
because
course,
I
yeah.
share a parking lot with John, so I understand where he's coming from. And thankfully, our businesses work so well together because we work on different hours. And he's slammed at lunchtime. I don't have anybody at lunchtime. You know, we're slammed at night. They close a little earlier. But if we had businesses that ran at the same time, that parking lot would be an absolute disaster. As it stands right now, the parking situation in St. Albans, if you work in St. Albans Circle, it's like parking lot wars. Like people are putting stakes, like don't park here, don't park here. You're getting in trouble if you park there. So I can see where John's concern would be. If I need to pick up something at Luigi and Giovanni's and I can't get into the parking lot, I'm not stopping there. So to introduce more traffic in, that's where the concern is that I have little kids coming, parents want to drop them at the door. If they're not able to do that, that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a pain. And then they're going to be like, I'm not going there. It's such a pain to park. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Sheila. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so that brings up a really good point, actually, is that, you know, this process is just beginning, and we want to hear more of your individual stories like that so that we know exactly how to tailor this response, or whether or not it needs to change that much. So we're going to be continuing to include you in emails, in video chats like this, in sessions that are facilitated so that we're asking the right questions, and you can just share your information and knowledge and expertise, and it'll all feed in together. The next opportunity to do that, we haven't picked a date yet, but the Regional Planning Commission, who has been doing a couple transportation schemes, is going to present what they have already and hear more from you. Nothing is set in stone there. They just wanted to give some visuals so that we can kind of get on the same page and talk. But it's an ongoing process. So I really appreciate hearing all of this feedback from you all. Pam, did you have a question, Kirsten? Yeah,
I'm just wondering, does DVPRC deal with parking? Is that all like wrapped into their traffic?
They do a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Okay. I figured it was related, but I think it's a good point.
Yeah. So the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, covers 9 counties within a region across 2 states. And they have experts in every transportation topic. They also cover, you know, future planning and development, bridges, traffic, everything. They have experts in everything. So the ones that are going to be working on this specific project have some expertise in this area and have done similar things. They also are focused on this idea of placemaking, which is enhancing the feel and use of a space and making it better for the people who are living and working there, and sort of creating this space that more people want to come to and interact with and feel different things about, you know, depending on what kind of a place we decide to make together. So please, yeah, continue to jump in. I'm just gonna move along to my next couple points, but all conversation is welcome. So hopefully, now I'm getting a little meta now, but hopefully I was just able to model a couple of these things for you. We want to make sure that we're learning about our audience, getting to know them, asking the right questions, something we're going to continue to do. Number 3, when you're leading one of these processes, don't claim to know everything. And in fact, it is really helpful if you are curious about how you might learn more. It's a really good way to kind of open up your frame and not come at a problem only in the way that you would as an individual, but to help other people kind of feed into that, because most problems are multidimensional. There's not just a single way forward that you're going to be able to see. So we want to make sure that we're really open to bringing more information about the project into it. When you don't have an answer, don't make one up. Just either say, I'm going to find that for you, or we can relate it to something else. But yeah, we're not politicians here. We're people doing projects for the people. The one that is probably the most important point to me, and something that I see done the wrong way a lot, almost every public meeting I go to, defensiveness is a major part of it. And defensiveness comes from a lot of things. And I'm talking about from the perspective of the person presenting information to a community. There are a lot of reasons that person may be defensive. They consider themselves an expert on the topic. It's something they've been working on behind closed doors for a really long time. They are a little frustrated because they know that the outcome is going to be fine. And now they have to communicate it with people who are skeptical and nervous. So I tell people the best way to get the public to dislike you and dislike your project or ideas is to be defensive and impatient about a project. So it can be hard. It's hard. It's a hard thing to practice, but you cannot be defensive about a project. You have to really be open to learning about, why people may be nervous about an idea or proposal, or how they might want to get involved, or really what they're excited about, as opposed to saying like, here's what I have, please don't question me. I'm going to get frustrated if you do. That's probably the hardest one on there. All right, another wall for you all. We want to make sure, especially in this phase, that we're really getting our communications in line. So this is something Paul and I have also been discussing quite a bit behind the scenes, but we want to make sure that our language is refined, because as soon as you start kind of spreading information about your own ideas and thought process, it can get pulled in a lot of different directions if people don't understand it. So we want to make sure that it's very informative, but that it's direct and readable. You also know that, people don't want to read, probably for instance, this wall of text that I've given you, but like a really long article is hard to read sometimes unless, you have the patience for that. You want to know what's going on. A lot of people like pictures. Avoiding buzzwords, acronyms, and industry words is really important too. So, we're doing our best to make sure that the communication that's going to go out about these projects kind of is very refined and direct. We also want to make sure it's consistent. So, we're setting expectations with the information that we're giving out. If we change it partway through, we may lose someone's trust that we've spent so long building, if we just kind of veer in a different direction. So we want to make sure our messaging is consistent, which really helps if you know your project beforehand. And if you don't, just, be transparent about that. Say, this is an evolving process. The language may change. So I'll tell you all now, this is an evolving process. The language may change. But, with a little benefit of the doubt from your end, and hopefully we'll have this open line of communication, we can kind of work through any of those unanticipated changes together. And then really important, make sure that the project team is aligned. So we've been having, I notice we have a new guest. Welcome. Feel free to chime in anytime, Wade. So we've been having meetings monthly with the smaller project team, but that is an open group. It's a volunteer group. So we want to make sure that that time and energy that those folks are putting in is really being appreciated and used. So, we have an hour a month that we need to get through a lot of information. But that being said, this is an open group. This is for the public as well. So if you do want to come in and join that conversation, you're more than welcome to do that. Clarity. Make sure you're being clear. Communicate what the project is for and also what it's not for. It can be really helpful to kind of lay out what we're not planning to do here to quell some possible fears. If you can kind of anticipate what those might be. And one of the big ones is saying again and again that this is a temporary project, or, sorry, let me rephrase that a little bit. The purpose of this next year and all the work that we're going to be doing is temporary and trial-based. So we want to make sure that we're testing out these little things that we're trying to do and touch on the square, and see and really measure how people are using them and reacting to them, and then making plans accordingly. We want to also make sure that it's obvious where and when people can connect into the project. So we do have that project website, and we'll try to make it a little more clear kind of where to find updated information on there. And then we're also using publications and online platforms and mailers and phone calls when we can. But we're going to have kind of a share kit come out shortly so that it's really obvious kind of where everyone can tap in. And we're also going to try and share these timelines and scopes. We have most of our timelines planned, but that's something that's still a little bit in the works just because COVID-19, it's really hard to plan for public events when you don't know when people are going to be able to get back in public again. So we have to allow some level of flexibility. And then the last one on here is just anticipating common questions, fears, and holdups. So, you can never really anticipate what exactly people's perspectives are going to be coming into these things, but you can always anticipate that there will be some sort of a fear or concern or a holdup with the project. So if you noticed a couple of them, like, continuing to say that these are temporary measures may help some of that. But, we're going to learn new things from this all the time. We're going to be really flexible. And something that we are also doing, especially with help from these focus groups, is thinking through different possible responses and different things that may come up in future sessions. So anything that you all are contributing to now is going to be really helpful down the road. Coming in towards the end here, but again, we want to make sure that we're always prioritizing transparency. So having an open heart in your mission and a really clear mission, and reciprocity. So that engagement for mutual benefit, engagement from Connect the Dots perspectives is fun for us. We enjoy this process and getting to know you and sharing our work with you and doing the work. And we're really lucky that we get paid for this work. So, those are all benefits for us, but we want to make sure that this work is really benefiting you as well. And we're going to really keep that in mind throughout this Gather in the Circle session for the entire year, that everyone is benefiting from this. Even these volunteers that are putting in so much of their time and planning energy, that there is some kind of a benefit in here. Let me skip this one for now. Oh, this is kind of just an example of how to talk about what is on and off the table. This is for another one of our projects. And then let me open it to questions just for a second. And if we do have any more time, I'll share some case studies, just the way that we think about things. But I want to make sure that I'm not leaving anyone out if there's something that people want to chat about.
I'd like to introduce Tina Roberts-Lightcap, a supervisor here in Newtown Township. And I'd also like to recognize Wade Pollock, who is the chairman of Parks and Recreation Committee. And he just joined us, I believe. I don't know if there's any other latecomer. Nope, that's everybody.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome, Wade.
I've been listening for a while. So.
Okay. Do we, originally I was told, Kirsten, that we need a hard stop at 7 o'clock. Is that so, or because we're about
I'm happy to stay a little longer for questions. I just always try to respect people's time. So if people are getting a little bit weary and want to go have dinner, please don't feel bad about dropping off, but I'll also be here a little bit longer if people have questions.
I would personally like to hear. Yes, Ken.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm on board with what kind of the direction. I mean, the circle itself is an unused space. Like, I love Luigi and Giovanni's, and like I would love to go over there and grab my lunch and sit outside of there and have a place I could hang out. The circle is a racetrack. It's a pain to walk over there now because nobody stops at the yield signs. Nobody pays any attention to anything. So I just want to make sure that our direction is to make it so Luigi and Giovanni's and the shops there, people slow down and take a look. Is that the direction of this meeting? I'm just trying to make sure I'm on point.
I think the whole idea behind this was to create a sense of place where people wanted to gather. And so the answer, I think, to your statement is yes. When we're looking at some of the things around the circle related specifically to traffic, is how do we calm the traffic down so that somebody could walk around? I mean, right now, I've been there, I've stood out, I've counted cars, and even in the middle of time of COVID, when we hardly had anybody out and driving around at different times, that circle can be very dangerous. And so we're aware of that from the township's perspective. And what started a lot of this, and when Linda came forward with the concept of Gather in the Circle for creating a sense of place, the idea was make it a place where people want to go and, just like you said, enjoy a sandwich, but feel like they can walk there. I mean, parking is a big issue because nobody's willing to cross where the cars are coming through. If we slow the traffic down and make it so that the cars aren't coming through quite as fast, does that make it more walkable? And if it makes it more walkable, does that increase business to a level that's sustainable, or does that hurt? I mean, all of those things are the reason why we want to try it and see what happens versus just saying this is what we're going to do.
Okay, so that's exactly. I just want to make sure. So and then this is putting out something is it possible to take away the fatness of going to 252 and narrowing it down and put parking along the road and then widening the circle and putting maybe parking parallel parking around the circle for people and widening the sidewalks there? And that would slow it down because nobody's going to come through the neighborhood if they can't go as fast as they want to get through. Again, these are things down the road, but I'm just throwing it out there, whatever.
I would just say some of the kind of topics that we've talked about with this is, do we make the traffic pattern in the circle? Do we push it out and make the lane much more narrow?
Right.
And by doing that, does that alone slow down the traffic enough that almost like we create a bigger circle than what's there today? Like if you look at the center of the circle, it's relatively tight. If we push it out, does it expand it? Do we only push it out so far that we could allow walkway around where some of the places where it's really tight in parking, we would still be able to have sidewalk that somebody could walk all the way around the circle? Right now, that's not there. And
right.
So those are some of the things that we've talked about, but we don't want to just rush in and do it. We want to look at what's the best way to do it, what provides the most for the people that want to be there and interact with all of that that's going on.
Perfect. I just was making sure that was the direction and we weren't talking about doing a bypass. Thank you very much.
There was conversation when, I guess at one of our board meetings, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
We talked about, like whatever that Chapel, is that Chapel Road?
Chapel.
We taught, there was flights of fancy, fantasy, about a bypass and things like that to connect it. And I just wanted to point out to John was when Whole Foods opened and Maria Panetteris, I think I'm saying her name incorrectly, she came over and she interviewed you all at Luigi and Giovanni. And that's what made us all started to think in the township that we have a little town center here, the big developers were building them. St. Albans has always been our town center. So we just want to help enhance it and slow. And part of it has been a multi-pronged project, between Public Works and the police and the township and this committee in talking about slowing down the traffic and making it more walkable. So I just wanted to address those concerns, but this has been, a thought out. And now with Kristen on board with Connect the Dots, it kind of helps coalesce all of this. So just to give everybody some background.
Thanks, negative.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yes, I have one.
This is my partner, Luigi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Hi.
And I have, of course, we all have ambition and we all have concerns, okay? On any time there's a new project taking place, it could go to the left or could go to the right, unless we have specific reasons or specific expertise that it's going to work one way. Right here, if we're intending to cut 50% of the traffic in the circle, we may be tending to lose 40 to 50% of our business, because 98% of our business is from vehicle traffic, not pedestrian. Okay, so that is a concern that I have, but there's nothing more beautiful than have more people in the area. Okay, where potentially they could become shoppers as well. But basing on our current experience right now, okay, 98% of all the business we do is by vehicle. And if we're going to cut 50%, for sure, we're going to lose 40 to 50% worth of business. At least that is a thought. Mm-hmm. Okay. I haven't studied this. I have not inquired about this. I haven't seen any other areas in the United States or Philadelphia or other states in the country would have had the similar situation as ours and that have already have experience in their possessions. Do you have any experience already to be able to tell us, listen, John, listen, Lou, there's nothing to be concerned about here. We'll cut 50% of the traffic and your business will still be no different than it has been. You're going to be doing more, but not less. Can you tell me that?
Is that question for me at Connect the Dots?
And that question is for anyone there.
I can answer that from my perspective, and then maybe I'll kick it to Steve. I've seen a lot of situations all over the country where walkability actually makes businesses a lot stronger. It does have to be done in phases. So you can't just say, no more cars here and not provide any kind of pedestrian infrastructure or reason to come to that space. So that's the reason that all these things are kind of happening in tandem, hopefully. That would be the goal. So
where does the walking traffic come from?
That's something that we don't know yet.
Well, we know here, it doesn't come from Westchester Pike. It doesn't come from the shopping center. It doesn't come from 252. Are they going to walk from SAP, where they built those condos, cross over 252, walk up the hill to the circle? No, they're going to drive. So they need a place to park their car somewhere, and then they'll walk around. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. It's a great idea. It's just that's where the project comes in. I might not be around to see it, but I'm just giving you my thoughts now. Like when I look at the circle, and I've looked at it for 45 years, it's still the same. It's a beautiful circle, still doing business. We're still here.
And we try to have a vision, okay, of what to expect, okay? Because for being in business for 50 years, we have to be somewhat visionary, okay? Because we change our operation at least 15 times, 10 times over the past 50 years. And of course, and this is another source of experience for us. And we have to be able to have an open mind, okay? And be subjective and objective, okay? And try to look at the best possible solution, not only for us, okay, but also for the community. Because it's the community, in part, that is making us survive for 45 years. Okay.
Listen,
and I don't want the community to be able to put a damage to our current position that we have experienced.
We understand, and we talked about it today. We're trying to create a piazza in the circle, as we do in Italy, but we don't have the Trevi fountain in there. So people can't stop in the middle of the city and just look at it, and then somebody walk over to the jewelry store, or somebody walk to the Parthenon, if you understand, or somebody walk up the street and get clams and spaghetti. Unless you're going to create little restaurants in here. We have the Italian she's a dance studio so they can entertain. I mean, this is what happens. And when people walk in Italy, there's no cars riding around the streets. You're walking the streets and you're going to parks and you're going, and I'm only using that because of experience. And that sounds like what you're trying to create. It's beautiful. I would love to sit in the park in the middle of the circle and just watch people walking and music playing and whatever. That's a dream. But the reality is right now, that's a hell of a project.
And
it's a hell of a project.
And excuse me, to add something else here, we don't want to create the impression that we're a sandwich shop here only. That's not what we are. We have people who had to spend $150, $200, $300, $500, $1,000 at a time by shopping costs at a time. And they come with their vehicles. They don't just come in here and have a sandwich or an ice cream cone.
We can't think of us.
No, I understand.
It's everybody.
But
the object is to bring people into the circle and create that European atmosphere.
And I think it's
how
beautiful.
do we do it?
And I think
how do we do it?
And
they're going to have to be able to do it at certain times when it is, it's like the piazzas at night. Well, at 6 o'clock at night, they're going to have lights here. They're going to have shops, restaurants, and everything else. And people are going to be able to park in my lot. I don't care. I'm not here. You understand?
I don't want to diminish anything you guys are saying. I am totally on board. I would love every space to be Italy. but
you understand the concept that I vision, because that's what I think what it is. In other words, it's not media where there's restaurants on both sides, and they still have traffic in media. You know, they still have traffic in Westchester. You know, I live there. It's one lane going in and out, but it's a city. This is a little community.
Yep.
So we have to try to draw people here to increase the business. I understand.
Yep.
You know,
And we also want to do that in a really responsible way that isn't hurting people or changing things too much, so that, you know, people just can't come there and access anything. So it's going to have to be a really specific response to this specific place.
But the only walking trade we get is from the housing, and they do walk. They walk their dogs. They'll walk here once in a while. But unfortunately, in today, it's a vehicle world. You know, to get places. I used to play baseball. Now you have to drive your kids 50 different spots to play baseball.
John, I think the only thing I can really say for the moment is that this, you know, whatever we're going to propose or hope for or try and design isn't going to happen tomorrow, and it's not going to happen all at once. So it'll have, you know, we're going to have to find a really incremental way to approach this, and that might be, you know, testing out what is going to happen if we you know, reduce the size of the traffic circle and then take measurements and say, okay, it looks like we got 50% less people through there. Then we come and ask you, you know, how much parking did you still have here? How many people did you get today? And then making adjustments accordingly.
I understand.
Yeah.
You're not going to put a contract out on me now, are you? I mean, I'm
no. One thing I want to, if I can, I mean, what's very important about this process to make it successful for everyone is that people are involved in the process. And I think that's what Kirsten is really pushing at with what the Connect the Dots piece is. It's an engagement process. And why you're here today, I mean, I know initially it's like you want to come in and protect, but what we need to hear from you is what's important to you, so that we can make sure that as we move forward, we're addressing all of these issues in the process. And and what I love about the approach of this is it's a try. We're not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on something right away if we don't know that it's going to work. So we're going to try something, and, you know, we get some feedback, and from that we go, well, this helped, but this hurt this. So we need to figure out, we need to back up and not take that step going forward. And, you know, or boy, this helped really drive a lot of foot traffic and it was great. But like for you, it may take away some of your big ticket items. And so how do we make sure that we allow the big ticket items to continue, because they need a car? You're not going to buy $1,000 worth of stuff and probably put it on your back and carry it home, but you will put it in the trunk of your car. So you can't eliminate parking, you know, so we have to have that balance. But until we start trying things to make it different, that's how we're doing this. It's a try something. If it works, we push forward. If it doesn't work, then we take a step back and make an adjustment to it.
And we appreciate your sentiments, and we agree with all that you just said.
Cool.
I think the object is not walk-in traffic. Number one, it's traffic.
Yeah.
And then when they get out of their car, they can walk wherever they want, and I'll walk with them. So
And
that's
what
key, is traffic.
What I'm also hearing from you guys today is that it'll be really helpful for us to be able to prepare some more information for you guys, like examples of where this has happened in other places, maybe with pictures and data. And then just really a better emphasis on, or a continued emphasis, I guess, on collecting all the data that we need to prove whether or not these ideas would work. So we're going to keep doing that throughout.
That's what they said with the town center. They showed us different, you know, places where it worked and success and this, that, and the other thing. There's been some changes since they said that in the beginning, but listen, that's the way the world is. I mean, every day you wake up, there's changes. But I think the key is to get people to recognize the circle, because it's hidden away. I mean, listen, we lost our tree and now we got to build ourselves back up, and we got to start from the bottom like a tree, and we got to grow. I understand that, you know. I mean, I'm going to do what I can to make it right, beautify it, advertise it, and get anything I can to going, and then you guys take it from there.
Well, thanks. We're really glad you're on here today, and I want to continue.
First time I was ever here, and I do have pants on. I want you to know that. I think it's great.
I really hope that you all continue to come to these. So we're going to just keep an eye out for emails from Paul coming up. We're going to have another session with this focus group that's going to be focused more on transportation. And we're also, it sounds like we probably need a really in-depth workshop where we just kind of open it up for people to talk through ideas once a couple early ideas have been presented. Paul, do you want to take it home?
So I thank everybody. I really thank you, Kirsten, for explaining exactly what Connect the Dots does and how it works. And I really appreciate the many of you who are on the call. And we have a tremendous variety of stakeholders and of people that are interested in Newtown Square, but from all different particular points of view of St. Albans Circle. And I appreciate that. Our next meeting is going to be in April, and that's going to be with the DVRPC, which stands for, we're not going to use acronyms, right? Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. I have it in my mind that I'm going to Google who they are and what do they do, and just as a prep to get ready for this, because I really have no idea. And I'm very intrigued. And they're going to be talking specifically about ideas for traffic. And so I'm very curious about all that. And that's what I have to say. I want to thank you all. I want to thank Kirsten. And you know what? We are a little bit, we need to watch the clock a little bit, because this was supposed to end at 7. It's about 7:15. So if you have something that you want to say, fine. But if it can be short, that'd be fine too.
It's nice talking to everybody. I'll see you all later.
Listen, it was really nice, and I thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, Luigi.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm also putting my email address in here if anyone has questions or thoughts and just wants to either rant or talk or complain. I don't care. Anything. Feel free.
So I thank you all very much, and onward.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate all of your time.
Steve, thanks for organizing.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Absolutely.
Okay. Goodbye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank everyone.
Bye.